If the Toyota Land Cruiser 200 is an unrealizable dream for you and weaving is also too expensive, take a closer look at the good old Toyota Land Cruiser 80. In some ways it is even better than modern models. Off-road world. This model combines comfort, maneuverability, and amazing endurance. Largely thanks to the 80s, there was a phrase about the fact that Toyota do not break down. Is it so? Of course not. Everything can be broken, including even that which, in principle, does not break. So, what's in store for the new owner of the TLC 80? Given the advanced age of the model, anything can wait, so we will highlight only the typical points of application of money and attention. The body and frame are very strong. Anti-icing agents come off them like water off a duck's back. At the same time, there are several places where rust lives quietly and peacefully for years and does not move anywhere. You can find it on the frames of the rear side windows and on the air intake panel. This is the one from which the wiper drives come out. On the STD and GX versions, which have one large wicket-type door at the back, there will certainly be problems with the door hinges. You can often hear about current windshields. However, the point here is a violation of technology when replacing them. Simply, the installers did not lubricate the sealing gum with a special sealant. It is not worth delaying the elimination of this leak. Water getting inside, over time, leads to problems with the electrical part. The electrics themselves are reliable, except that the retractable antenna turns sour from dirt. If the stove blows badly, then you do not need to buy a new motor. This is a clogged radiator of the heating system, because the design does not provide for a cabin filter. What else about the cabin should be noted? Salt can rot the pipes going to the second stove/air conditioner. So that one day a flood does not happen, it is worth cleaning the drain channels of the sliding sunroof. The most pleasant and durable trim option is Velair. True, it is not found on the utilitarian version with the STD index, where everything is exclusively vinyl. As for the leather interior, this is the prerogative of the top version of the VX. By the way, it's not worth chasing the skin on purpose. It is slippery, cold, and eventually becomes covered with unpleasant cracks. The engines are represented by inline 6-cylinder units, gasoline, diesel, and turbo diesel. Gasoline engines were both carbureted 3FE 4.0L, 155 horsepower, 1FZ F4.5L, 190 horsepower, and injection 1FZ FE 4.5L, 205 to 215 horsepower. Naturally aspirated diesel 1HZ with a volume of 4.2 liters is presented in several modifications with a capacity of 120 liters or more. Width, up to 135L width. Its turbo version was called 1HD T4.2L, 165 horsepower, and in the 24-valve version, 1HD FT, 170 horsepower. Gasoline engines are considered eternal, and with moderate average annual runs, their operation costs no more than diesels. For example, in a diesel engine, you need to change the oil more often, and it fits in there. 11 liters against 8 liters in a gasoline engine. In addition, diesel engines have a timing belt drive, while gasoline engines have a chain drive that does not require replacement and maintenance. As for diesels, despite their maintainable injection pump and lower fuel consumption, they can put a big pig. The fact is that it is very problematic to adjust fuel equipment in Russia. No, adjusting a worn-out carburetor is also unrealistic, but buying a new one will cost a more or less sane amount, $300 to $400. Trouble can cause cracks in the receiving part of the muffler on the 1FZ FE engine, due to a clogged first catalyst. Brewing them is pointless, only change. In the transmission, two options are possible: permanent 4-wheel drive, full-time 4WD, and plug-in, part-time 4WD. The front axle is in some way the weak link of the 80. On average, every 150,000 kilometers it is necessary to change its filling, including drives. You can only get rid of the replacement of oil seals, thrust bearings, and grenades, but this is a half measure. Moreover, in half of the cases it is worth immediately, to the heap, to repair or replace the axle gearbox with a new one. This SUV can drive fast. 150 to 160 kilometers per hour are quite real speeds for it. However, those who like to drive the bridge will live noticeably less than 100,000 kilometers. Of course, with the beam of the bridge itself, if the stones are not uprooted with it, nothing can happen. Although on healthy wheels during side impacts, it is possible to bend the necks of the beam, followed by the turning balls. By the way, with non-sagging springs without a lift, wheels with a diameter of 32 inches stand up. It is also necessary to monitor the seals. However, they can leak not only from old age, but also because of clogged breathers. Manual gearbox, transfer case, and rear axle are not at risk. The automatic transmission is very reliable, and a small bump when shifting from third to fourth gear is not a reason to sound the alarm. Cardan shafts and their crosses also go indefinitely, if you do not forget to put grease in their grease fittings at each MOT. Fully dependent spring suspension with colossal travel is simple and tenacious. Silent blocks of the front and rear suspensions with a calm driving style do not require replacement up to 150 to 180,000. The wear of silent blocks is felt by the fact that the SUV begins to float along the road. Shock absorbers and tie rods are also not among the frequently purchased parts. Oil leaks from the steering gear indicate that the bobby is dead. Over time, the gearbox will have to be changed entirely. Trying to sort it out is a waste of money. For more than 10,000 kilometers, such a repair is not enough. Checked multiple times. Even in the steering, there may be a power steering pump on the way. The life of the pump shortens the frequent holding of the steering wheel in extreme positions. Well, ignoring the fact that the power steering fluid is sometimes worth changing. In general, the model has 1 or 2 weak points. But this is true only for moderately well-groomed specimens. Alas, you can look for such a car for a long, very long time. After all, the principle of driving until it breaks down is very common among our motorists. It is almost impossible to bring a running 80 into a decent trouble-free condition within a reasonable budget. Here are real examples. The first owner, who did scheduled maintenance every 10,000 kilometers, had a car that covered 350,000 kilometers. During this time, it was changed only consumables, silent blocks with shock absorbers, and moved the front axle. Since then her story was in plain sight. It is known that before the next sale she ran another 200,000 kilometers, also without global cash injections and serious breakdowns. Here it must be added that all its operation took place in a calm mode and without off-road. But in another 80s, known to me personally, a whole sea of /U200B/U200 strength and money was poured. This car has changed many owners and was used mainly off-road. Some atypical troubles regularly surfaced in him. Either the brakes would leak, or the axle shaft bearing would jam. Despite the very respectable age of the representatives of this model, they are still being stolen. So when buying, it's worth breaking through the VIN not only according to the criminal base, but also in the auto shop according to the spare parts program. Often, under documents from STD, they stole and collected expensive VX. This is fraught with the fact that, even if there are no claims from the law, questions will arise with the purchase of spare parts. Since, due to the many modifications, it is not worth counting on the interchangeability of parts. Thinking about buying, you need to understand that this is not a trophy, but an expeditionary SUV. Heavy, with a wheelbase of 2,850 millimeters and decent overhangs, it does not feel like it is in its native element in serious off-road. Nevertheless, for trips associated with the exit from the asphalt, it is 100% suitable. In addition, as brand experts say, this is the last real Land Cruiser with a colossal margin of safety, thick body metal and the same paintwork.